Welcome to our podcast for module EN6161, where we discuss the teenage brain with Mammy who can't understand why her son Damien is acting the way he is. Let's take a look at this.
My fella wouldn't do nothing for you, and he can't make a decision to save his life, and he'll be going around with a big moody head up in him. I don't know what to do with the young fella.
Believe it or not, Mammy, Damien isn't just being lazy. There are scientific reasons for his behaviour at this age. Listen up, we're going to take you inside his brain. The brain is split into many different parts, and each of them serves a purpose. The parietal lobe is at the top of the brain. This is responsible for language and touch. The temporal lobe controls hearing, learning and feelings. The occipital lobe is at the back of the brain. This controls sight. The cerebellum is at the bottom of the brain, and it helps us keep our balance and coordination. Next, we have the brainstem. This regulates our breathing, heart rate and temperature. Finally, the frontal lobe is at the front of the brain and is responsible for thinking, memory, behaviour and movement. Within the frontal lobe, we have the prefrontal cortex. This is a very important part of the brain, as it deals with things like attention, ideas, planning and rational activity.
The prefrontal cortex, as mentioned previously, sits just behind the forehead and is responsible for higher order cognition. As the prefrontal cortex matures, adolescents begin to improve reasoning, develop control over impulses and begin to make better decisions. If this is not developed sufficiently, then adolescents can display poor judgment in certain situations. The limbic system is also developing throughout adolescence, composed of many different structures such as the amygdala and the hypothalamus. The amygdala is responsible for emotions and emotional reactions within the brain. There is increased activity in the amygdala in teens because the frontal lobe has not yet developed fully, explaining sudden outbursts or moodiness within teenagers. Have a look at this, Mammy. The hypothalamus is located directly behind the eyes and helps your body maintain a constant temperature. This part of the brain also controls the pituitary gland, which in turn controls all other endocrine glands in the body. Growth hormone is released along with gonadotropin releasing hormone, which will trigger puberty and physical development in teenagers.
Another part of the brain we're going to look at, corpus callosum. This is an area that starts to grow before and during puberty and is mainly responsible for connecting both the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. So how does this affect adolescents? Well, it actually is responsible for language learning. So this might explain why children or adolescents pick up a second language much easier than adults. So now that we've looked at our three main structures of the adolescent brain that affected behaviour, let's take a look at a process called myelination.
What?
Yes, Mammy, myelination.
You're after losing me altogether now. I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, so let me try explain. So here we have a cell in the brain known as a neuron. These neurons communicate to other neurons through axons. A fatty tissue known as myelin covers these axons, which make a stronger connection between neurons. Well, Mammy, a stronger connection between neurons means information is processed faster in this circuit. This myelination process means the brain is actually more effective. Now let's take a look at a process called pruning. Pruning is actually the breakdown of these neuron circuits.
Sure, what has that got to do with anything?
Well, Mammy, this means the body can put all its energy and resources into the remaining circuits, which mean these neurons can send stronger connections and therefore will be reinforced in adulthood. This is known as the use it or lose it principle. So if you're an adolescent and you spend your time reading, then you're more than likely going to reinforce this reading when you get to adulthood.
So, Mammy, why do we as teachers need to know this about the teenage brain? It allows us to be reflective in our behaviour and so strives to improve educational practice. As teachers, our actions can help on a cognitive and personal level. Teenagers are going through an identity crisis, so we must look at the student and not the role that student is trying on. We need to encourage self-esteem in our classrooms. We have to be tolerant to teenage fads. They may look like an adult, but they are not. To help students deal with their poor decision making, we can do many things. We can model career choices, provide resources to deal with personal problems, give opportunities to improve grades and behaviour, and this should lead to purposeful teaching. The use it or lose it principle in the classroom, how to address? Well, we should teach concrete teaching strategies, we should discuss personal visions and hypothetical scenarios such as utopia and debate these things. We should encourage problem solving and scientific reasoning. We should teach broad concepts and not just facts, for example, World War II and racism.
If you don't believe us, have a listen to Sarah Jane Blakemore, Professor of Cognitive Neuroscience in University College London.
So what's sometimes seen as the problem with adolescents, heightened risk-taking, poor impulse control, self-consciousness, shouldn't be stigmatized. It actually reflects changes in the brain that provide an excellent opportunity for education and social development.
Ah, bless you, Damien. Sure, it's not your fault at all, boy. Have a cup of tea.
This podcast on the Adolescent Brain was produced by Stephen Donovan, Damien McHugh, Jessica Swain and Aisling Power for PME module EN6161 Understanding Learning, taught by Dr. Jennifer McMahon at the University of Limerick, the 6th of the 11th, 2017.
No mammies were hurting and making of this podcast.